Multiplayer games can tell great stories.
So please let them.
Let's talk about it. Tomo, why are we talking about multiplayer storytelling in video games?
Because of the story of the week, which was a revelation from Blizzard that the hero modes for Overwatch 2 are not going to be released in the form that we saw them. Having a separate co-op or single player narrative driven experience that involves taking characters, pushing them through like a skill tree, a talent tree, and power progression and that kind of stuff. The thing that most of us were excited about when they announced Overwatch 2, and the thing that they justified the 2 on Overwatch with. So we had an interview with Blizzard, a couple of Aaron Keller and Jared Noose from the team, and kind of talked about it, and you can read that interview on GameSpot.com now. They are going to tell the story through seasonal events, which is something that they have been doing since the start of Overwatch.
So the announcement, for lack of a better phrase, boiled a lot of piss.
A lot of piss was boiled.
Piss was boiling. People were furious. I'm wearing my Overwatch socks today, actually. Unintentionally.
I'm wearing my Overwatch underwear. Does that exist? You'll never know.
It sounds like it was for a good reason. We'll dig into that. But people are kind of, I don't know, Overwatch has built this incredible universe and people are very much afraid that they are letting that fall to the wayside. But we're here to talk about the fact that multiplayer games can tell great, meaningful stories.
So the reason, as we mentioned, we're talking about this is because it feels like a lot of squandered potential. It feels like we're being once again kept away from the thing that we want most out of Overwatch, which is the story. And now that we know it's going to be told through the seasonal events, it's making
behind
us
a season
pass. The format of it is kind of worrying. So we've been thinking a lot about multiplayer games and the stories they tell, and started to think about, is it possible to do good ones? And the kind of where we reached was, yes, you can definitely do a good multiplayer story, right?
Yes, absolutely. But I think, when we were talking through some of the examples, a lot of them haven't really hit off the bat. So you look at Destiny.
Yeah.
Ooh, the story of original
Hope
Destiny.
you like Grimoire cards.
Wasn't even told in the game itself. Had some incredible cutscenes. I think we all remember that Wizard came from the moon. But eventually, Destiny caught on to the fact that, loot, numbers going up, etc. is going to bring people back. But you know what else brings people back? Story and characters that people can connect to. And I think with Destiny 2, especially like some of the later expansions, that's when they really knuckle down and it's become a huge movement.
Yeah, and I think that that's the kind of trend that you hope it would be a trend, but it hasn't caught on as a trend, which is also why we're talking about it, right? Like there's a lot of multiplayer games where the story just doesn't feel substantial.
Like COD.
Like Call of Duty, Warzone.
They use that for like, okay, we're going to tease up a new Warzone map or something. But then you take something like Apex.
Apex is doing a good job of it, but still it's very similar to Overwatch in terms of the way it's told is almost feels like a drip feed of it through like events, cinematic trailers. The games that do it really well, along with Destiny, Final Fantasy,
Ziv.
An MMO, Ziv, as we call it here. That is perhaps the best example of what a good story can do to your multiplayer experience. The original version of the game, a mess for many, many reasons. Just a nightmare of a game. They like destroyed that world as a narrative part of the actual game. Like that was it was an event, we destroyed the world. And then they rebuilt it as a Realm Reborn and focused on story and characters almost above everything else. Everything else is kind of like, it's got good classes, new classes mechanically, but it plays like an MMO for the most part. But the thing that fans constantly talk about,
and not to put Michael Heim on blast,
the story, the characters, those moments. I've watched many a stream of Final Fantasy players breaking down in tears at a narrative moment. That is the kind of experience that you'd expect, or if you ask some random gamers, they'll probably expect that from the mainline Final Fantasy games, not the multiplayer one. So it's definitely a huge boon for it. And then Fortnite is the other one, right? Like Fortnite, ostensibly shooty buildy game, right? But
run away from 8-year-old
games. Run away from 8-year-old games.
Flossing game.
They make a story out of everything. Like we have the season transitions, which is always like wild and wacky. But now they have like, I think that character was named Zero or something like that. The one that The Rock played.
Oh, yeah.
Like that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
And whenever they do like licensed things, they make a big deal about it. The Ariana Grande concert, that is basically just high level capitalism happening in front of us, right? Like Epic Games, like we've got this thing that everyone loves. Ariana Grande is like, we want to let's exchange monies and contracts, and here we go. But in the game, it was a narrative thing. There was a narrative around it. People tuned in, or they felt a reason to come back to it and kind of experience what it is. And the other one is Warframe.
Oh, yeah. Warframe is one of those games, along with Ziv, that I wish I had the time to invest into it, because that community just loves it so much. And seeing how they've managed to maintain that community over so many years, like 10 years at this point, is nothing short of incredible.
And Warframe grew in player base, like exponentially over time. And you can almost chart its investment in story and characters alongside that growth. They clearly understood that this is something that people want to get invested in and come back. Overwatch 1, we played because we enjoyed it, right? We reached the point where mechanically it's not, rustling our jimmies or whatever you want to say.
That means annoying you.
Annoying me?
It's not tickling your pickle.
Tickling your pickle. That's it. I was going to say tickling your grapes, but you went for pickle. The thing that we want now is the world, the characters.
Overwatch has taken a lot of L's. A lot of L's. So, for example, the esports scene seemingly imploding. Dwindling. Obviously all of the issues of Blizzard. We also talking about the fact that they sunsetted the original game, the 6v6, changed the mode from 6v6 to 5v5. They lost control point maps, including some absolute fan favorites like Hanamura. Then we're talking about the season pass content, which has been I feel like they've been delivering what they set out to do. There's a lot of content, however, a lot of issues with new heroes. We're at a point now where Overwatch to a newcomer is very, very difficult to get into, because you're looking at 35 heroes.
Overwatch 1, you could see the exact moment they pulled out. Like they were like done. They were doing minimal work, and the justification for that, they've been very open, is like we were working on a much bigger game. So there was a multi-year content drought around Overwatch.
Wasn't it like 2 years?
It was like 3 years, 2 to 3 years, and that drought was due to the fact that they were working on new content for the sequel. And now we've reached the point where none of that is coming out in the way that we expected it, which means we sat through the content drought. We suffered through it for no reason.
And I think it's important to note that while the main PvE hero missions is gone, there has been some miscommunication, or at least misinterpretation from a lot of places where they're like, oh, PvE is gone entirely. No, it's not.
No.
They're going to put that into the season passes and the battle passes.
Yeah, and
it's going to be seasonal content.
I'm not excited by that method of delivery of story. To make that investment, the character and story investment, you need to give people something to latch onto. And a sprinkling of narrative isn't enough. And that's what it looks like they're going to be doing with these like seasonal story things, because they now have to take the story that they want to tell or were going to tell, but it still needs to fit into the framework that currently exists. Unless they're going to change entirely how they deliver content on a seasonal basis, which they're not, it doesn't look like it, we're going to get these small packets of story which don't feel satisfying at all.
One thing that Overwatch has in its back pocket that I think has been squandered, particularly over the last couple of years, is an overinvestment into esports, because you are catering there to the high skill players and the people who want to watch essentially a sport, whereas they could take a leaf out of League of Legends and Riot's book and lean more into the transmedia part of things, which is, League of Legends has a multitude of different games set in that universe. They have a K-pop band, they have Arcane on Netflix, and Overwatch has comics, don't get me wrong, and the occasional
cinematic,
Pixar-esque cinematic, but there is so much more you can do in that world, because then you are appealing to a much more casual, for the lack of a better term, you are appealing to a casual audience who are then having an investment in your world, and that's how you can bring them in and keep them in.
I would love to see them take the money that they keep trying to put into esports to make that a thing again, or make it bigger, and just put that back into Overwatch as a IP, like expanding its horizons. I think, as you said, League of Legends is doing it perfectly. Like Cyberpunk did it one time really, really well, but the impact of it was massive, right? Like Riot Forge is what I think they call it, which is like the umbrella where they start they've been releasing spin-off League of Legends games. And I think that is something that Overwatch needs to embrace. Get in a team, an outside third-party developer that can make a single-player game, and let them make it. It could be something completely different. The Riot games are mechanically not MOBAs. Like they're just like, here's a side-scrolling action game, but it's set in that world and it has characters or touchstones from that world. They expand how people see that world. And there's so much potential in Overwatch to do that, but they just never do it. They just leave it. And Cyberpunk did the thing with the Netflix series, and the impact of that was player base skyrocketed. And this is a game that had a bad uphill struggle, and the lingering kind of sentiment around it wasn't particularly good. But like once they released that Edge Runners thing, it was a whole different group of people playing now, or and people coming back to it. And then they put David's like jacket or something in the game, and it was like back and forth.
Yeah, so you get like, DLC for the game to reward the new players who have come in with the show. It makes so much, and like obviously we're not ones making business decisions. We're big fans of Overwatch. We have interviewed the Overwatch team many times. We even made a documentary series about the Overwatch League when it first started. Like, I'm wearing Overwatch socks, man. I'm not going to put that on
Overwatch
camera.
underwear.
We're not going to put either of those on camera for free.
Subscribe to my OnlyTams. But yeah, it is mind-boggling to me that Overwatch has existed as long as it has, and its popularity is, I'm going to be maybe controversial, the only reason it became a cultural zeitgeist was because of everything around it. People's obsessions with characters and how that manifested. And how did that manifest in like fan art, cosplay, Rule 32, 34. I
hate that I corrected you on that.
Stories that people are doing. But things that fans love so much about it that they took it upon themselves to like represent that in new ways. Multiplayer games, they have the potential to tell interesting stories, and Overwatch should be that franchise that does it, but they're just not doing it, and it's heartbreaking as fans. Yeah.
So Blizzard, please hear our plea.
Just let someone else make your single player games, you know?
Or
Insomniac presents the Diva game. I don't know.
Oh. Armored Core DLC.
Respawn. You're not getting Titanfall, but you will get a mech for Divafall, and like let them make that.
You've done the hard part. You've made the universe that people want to be in. Please let them.
Just let them, give them new ways in. You will earn money, and you'll keep being part of the cultural zeitgeist, and people will be happy about it.
We'll be happy about it.
I'll be happy about it.
Thank you everyone for watching. If you've got hot takes about Overwatch 2 dropping its PvE, let us know in the comments below. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Lucy James Games.
I'm at Tamor.
Oh, we were doing an outro. It's okay. And we will see you next week for another episode of Spot On. Nerf this! What are you doing?
It's high noon.